Hi, I'm Chad with Move Forward Guitar. This lesson is from our series Guitar Chords for Beginners. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play an open F major chord. First off, if you'd like to get the diagram for this chord, the chord chart, you can click the link on the screen and it'll take you to an eGuide that you can download for free. And this eGuide includes this chord as well as a whole bunch of other beginner chords that are really useful to learn. It has really common beginner chords as well as less common ones. And not only do I show you how to play the chords, give you diagrams for those, but I show you how to put the chords together into chord progressions. So it includes a whole bunch of chord progressions that I have taken from the chords in the eGuide and put them together in sequences so you can see how they go together in a musical situation, and it'll also give you ideas of how to put these chords together into your own chord progressions. So if you'd like to get that eGuide for free, just click the link on the screen and you can download that. Here's an open F major chord. And this is a chord you should learn fairly early on, although it's not the first chord you should learn. There's quite a few other chords you should learn before this to build your hand strength. And there's a link in the description that'll show you what chords are best to learn first. Because this is one of the harder beginner chords to play, and it's because it has a little bar in it, which I'll explain in a second. It's a really valuable beginner chord, but it's difficult to play, and most beginners really struggle with it at first. But once you get it down, it's going to become easy to you, just like everything on guitar. So don't get frustrated, just take it slowly, and eventually it'll become easy to you. So the reason this chord is so difficult is because it's introducing what's called a bar. And a bar is when you play more than one note with one finger. So I'm barring the second and the first string with my first finger. So I'm having to use my first finger to catch both of those notes at the same time and get them to ring out. And that's different than most beginner chords. Most beginner chords you're just playing single notes at a time, so it's a lot easier. But the F major chord gives people a lot of trouble because you're adding this little bar in. But it's important to learn as a beginner. It'll be really useful to you. This chord is used all the time, and it's important to get down fairly early on. So, like I said, a bar is when you're catching more than one string, more than one note at a time, fretting more than one note at a time with one finger. And with this chord, you're fretting the second string first fret and the first string first fret with your first finger. And you have to do that by laying your finger flat like mine is and catching it on this part of your finger. You're not playing on the tip of your finger like you do with most notes and most chords. You're having to lay your finger down flat to bar those two notes. And that's going to be the most difficult part of this chord by far, and it's the part that gives most people a lot of trouble. So that's the first thing to do, is just to get those two notes to ring out clearly with your first finger. So just do it over and over until you can get them to ring out clearly. And it's probably a good idea to start with your thumb pretty low and close to right behind your first finger. You probably don't want to start with your thumb up, or it'll probably be harder to bar those two notes. So as a beginner, when you're starting, start with your thumb down, and that way you're adding like a little clamp where your thumb and your first finger come together. But make sure that you don't squeeze too tight or you'll injure your hand. So do that over and over until you can get those two notes to ring out. That's how you're going to start learning this F major chord. So that's all you should worry about at first, whether it takes a week or a month. Just make sure that you can get those two notes to ring out clearly before you try to play the rest of the chord. And there's an open D minor 7 chord, which is actually a little easier chord probably because there's one less note to fret. And there's a link in the description where I teach you how to play that chord. And you can start with that chord first before the F major chord. Even though the F major is a more used chord as a beginner, the D minor 7 might help you build your way into the F major chord if you want to check that out and try to learn that first. So once you have those two notes fretted, or able to do that and get them to ring out clearly, that's when you add in your other two fingers. So the fingering for this chord is your third finger on the fourth string, third fret, your second finger on the third string, second fret, and like I said, you bar with your first finger the second and first string in the first fret. So it looks like this. And with this chord, you're blocking out the fifth string with your third finger, so you're just lightly touching up underneath there to keep that string from ringing out, because you're going to start your strum, or the first note you hear, on the 4th string, not on the 5th string or the 6th string. So if you can block that out, you don't have to be as accurate. You can hit the 5th string and not worry about it. So this is going to be really difficult. You're going to really have to arch your 2 fingers, your 2nd and your 3rd fingers, to keep from blocking out any other strings, except your 3rd finger is blocking out the 5th string on purpose. But you're really going to have to arch it. If you bend these back at all, you're going to mute out strings that you don't want to mute out. So you're going to have to really work on this chord to get all the notes to ring out clearly. In my hand, you can see how when I have these 2 notes in, that my 1st finger is kind of turned sideways. It's not straight up and down, but it really depends on the anatomy of your hand and what's most comfortable to you. So you're going to have to work on it and see what works best. Like I said, I recommend starting with your thumb down behind your 1st finger so you can produce that clamp there and get a nice grip. Eventually, you can probably hold it like this, which I do a lot. But I think that'll be more difficult. I recommend trying to keep your thumb down at first. And if you're really struggling with this, if that bar is just like killing you and you can't do it, no matter how much you try, I mean, you're getting frustrated, you'll eventually be able to do it. But if it feels like it's taking way too long to learn that, there's another way to hold an F major chord and leave out the 1st string so that you can still play an F major chord and not have to worry about that bar. And the only thing you do that's different is you don't play the 1st string. You then are on the tip of your finger on the 2nd string 1st fret, add in your other 2 fingers where they go, and you block out the 1st string with the back of your 1st finger. So instead of barring it, you're just muting it so you don't hear that string anymore. So you're really only playing 3 notes. You're playing the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. So that's another option for playing the F major chord if you're really struggling with that bar, and then you can still play songs that have F major in it and not have to worry about the bar. But eventually you really want to get that bar down because it's going to be really useful to you to play the whole chord, and then that sets you up for being able to play bar chords later. It really will help with that. And like I said, if you like the chord chart for this, as well as a bunch of other beginner chords and chord progressions, click the link on the screen. You can download that eGuide for free, which has, like I said, this chord, a bunch of other beginner chords and chord progressions, and it'll be really useful to you as a beginner and really set you ahead. So click the link on the screen, download that for free. So that's an open F major chord.